Salutations, traveller! It's time for an update. Essentially, I have got a haircut booked for Tuesday. Yep, on Tuesday, I can get this cut into some semblance of a normal human head. There is some irony that I clicked Blood Angels, yeah. I'm a piece of shit. On top of that, I've played 5 games of Warhammer 40,000 now, all via Tabletop Simulator. So that's right, I am a fucking expert now. Some of you were asking in the comment section of the last video, and then I've asked me on Twitter and on Instagram, when's the Tabletop Simulator gameplay coming? As much as I'd like to do that, I don't think I can. I don't want to step on any toes, as it were. I don't really think Games Workshop are very positive about Tabletop Simulator, because I guess it is intellectual property theft. It's like asking me to make videos of magic on cockatrice. As we all know, only dickheads do that. 9th edition release. The rules are imminent. We're getting leaks by the hour. The blast weapon profiles, the pointing of 9th edition. It's all getting leaked. Indomitus will hopefully go on pre-order this weekend, and then we'll know when it's coming out, when we can get it, and my fucking god, do I need it. Oh, I need it! I need it. So please, GW, stop tickling my stink and just tell me when it's coming out and tell me how much money I unfortunately owe you. A quick editor's note: as I was editing the video, they announced it. The pre-order date is the 11th, so that's when the app should be out, and the full thing's out on the 25th. The box is out on the 25th of July. What's the price? We don't know. They still haven't fucking told us. That's crazy. It's crazy that we now know when it's out, but we still don't know how much it's going to cost. So we'll probably get a cost on July 11th. Anyway, on with the video. So with 9th on the horizon, I've previously done a video about like sort of learning from some of the stuff that I had. That Citadel's starter brushes are dog shit, for example, and that there are companies out there that will sell you models that are already painted if painting isn't your thing. But there were many comments asking like, how does the game play? I want to learn. Can you do like a getting started that way? And you know what? I do want to do some gameplay videos, perhaps some learner stuff and some more meme stuff, but I can't yet. The lockdown rules change very soon in England, so I'm looking to play some actual physical Warhammer this weekend and not just tabletop sim. But in the meantime, I think I can perhaps talk to you about how you can play your first game, or how you can get into the gameplay of Warhammer 40k with Combat Patrol. This is the new entry level to Warhammer 40,000. If we don't include Kill Team, I'll come to that in a moment. So if you're looking to join me on my excursion, my journey into the grimdark future where there is only war, apparently, although there are golden nipples on the suits of some of my men, and I mean, that's not a war thing, that's a nipple thing. But if you're looking to join me, then maybe Combat Patrol is the way to do that. And I want to explain to you why I am genuinely excited by things like Combat Patrol opening the hobby up to new players. So let's talk about how armies are put together. There are these charts that tell you what you have to have in an army. In 8th edition at the moment, you have to have your main detachment, and then you have like separate versions of detachments that have different slots available to them. So you have to pick units and things, and it sounds confusing at first, but once you've done it a couple of times, it really isn't. And these force organization charts, if you allow me to call them that, have existed in Warhammer for a very, very long time to tell you what units you are able to take. The detachment system for the new one is changing, depending on what version of the 40k you're playing, what size or scope you're playing, what points, table size and CP will have available to you, depends upon what you can take. There will be other detachments that allow you to like play with allied units and things like that. We don't know the full extent of those rules yet because they haven't been revealed, but for today we're just going to talk about how Combat Patrol works. But in order to do that, you need to understand like the point system in 40k. Well, armies are built with 2 systems, one being points and one being power level. Now, I make that face about power level because it's a weird one. Points has been around since the dawn of time. I remember when I was just simply a primordial soup in the balls of my father playing 40k from inside of those testicles. Things were pointed. You would figure out your army via points. Now, power level's a newer thing that came out at some point between then and now over the last 2 decades when it came back to the hobby, and it seems like power level is a thing that only Games Workshop uses and no one else. Look, I'll explain, I'll show you some stuff. So here's a tactical squad. A tactical squad is a squad of 5 Marines, has a power level of 4, so you can take this squad and you can add as many add-ons as the codex or the rules allow without changing its power level. So you can add in a plasma gun as a special weapon, or a las cannon as a heavy weapon, for example. You can give your sergeant some extra war gear from the sergeant list, some melee weapons list, so he can get a power fist and a plasma pistol, and none of these things change the power level of this unit. That means this is power level 4, add 21 more power level so you get 25, and you get to where, supposedly, your army will be combat patrol playable. But the problem comes that if you take 5 Space Marines with bolt rifles, but I take 5 Space Marines, one's got a plasma cannon, the other one's got a power fist and a multi-melter pistol. Is there a melter pistol? Melter pistol. They're the same power level. Meanwhile, with the tactical squad example, let's talk about points. Your average squad costs 60 points. If you want to add a las cannon, it's going to cost you just over 30 points to add it onto the team. If you want your sergeant to take a power fist, you can do that, sure, but it's going to be 9 points to allow him to fist people. Now, some of you are going to say, Vince, that sounds too complicated. The point system sounds too complicated. And it is more complicated, but it's not too complicated. It allows for a large amount of customization and balancing because you can readjust the point costs of things through patching of the game, as we've seen GW move towards with chapter approved and supplemental rules and changes as time has gone on. It seems to me, as someone coming into the game, there's a lot of talk now of GW finally adopting like sort of almost like video game approach to Warhammer, where they will patch and change things ongoing, which it's weird because I'm coming in and seeing it and be like, oh, it's cool that they do that. But people are saying on podcasts I'm listening to, this is new. They don't normally do this. Power level, on the other hand, okay, so I looked into it. Points have changed with each sidekick supplement, with each chapter approved, the points totals and the points costs of things change. Power level, on the other hand, hasn't been changed ever, which means they aren't balancing power level. Power level has never been balanced at all. And I know some of you are going to say, like, you know, power level is simple and simplistic, but from my wanderings across the internet and chatting to multiple people now about Warhammer, people have been reaching out to me to talk about Warhammer I've never met before, who do podcasts and other content because they've seen me making Warhammer content. I don't believe anyone uses power level. Competitive Warhammer uses points. Everyone uses points. Power level is simpler, 100% simpler. But the thing is, it's so simple that it actually becomes less simple. But because you can take all your add-ons for your units extra without any points, you actually start to spend a lot of time bogged down in the minutiae of how you can power up your team as far as possible. Take every inch, leave no value on the table, and before you know it, you're min-maxing every unit, every tank, every squad with guns and grenade launchers and smoke launchers and all sorts of nonsense. And before you know it, this simple power level thing has become an exercise in power gaming, and well, fuck that. So there's more balance to go with points. So from this point on the channel, and in this video, I'm going to talk about points. And GW can keep printing this power level shit, but I'm not going to use it. Okay, back to Combat Patrol, right? Combat Patrol is a 500 point, smaller board, 3CP version of full fat Warhammer 40k. Now, Kill Team exists. This thing here, it exists. Okay, to explain Kill Team, which I do plan to talk about on the channel at some point in the future, because I like the look of it but haven't had a chance to play it yet. It's like 40k, but the rules are adjusted to be a tactical skirmish of smaller teams and individual models moving on their own as opposed to being a part of a wider squad or unit. One of the biggest differences besides smaller battles and teams is that your movement, or when you activate units, is in a turn order, where in 40k you move and shoot and fight your entire army, then pass for your opponent to do the same. In Kill Team, there's an initiative phase where you roll for initiative, and then you cycle through units as people move them, and well, it makes it play very differently. And I want to clarify that. Kill Team is a very different beast, whose movement phase works different too, as does charging, falling back, and morale. None of this being a value judgment from me. I'm not saying it's worse. I'm super hyped to pick up some of my favourite models out of my Blood Angels, some of my better painted ones, compose a Kill Team, and send them on some special mission against my friends who are all building Kill Teams at the moment as well. It's not worse, but it's significantly different enough that I don't think it counts as full fat 40k. In Kill Team, you typically play 100 to 150 points, often fielding between 3 and 12 models depending on your faction, and the changes in rules make it so that those games scale down well, but it doesn't actually play out like 40k. I should know, I've played some 40k now. It's a lot better for smaller, faster, more balanced, I guess, like competitive smaller games, where I feel like Combat Patrol, whilst less balanced perhaps, is probably more of a fun intro to how Warhammer 40k actually is. Combat Patrol is actually 40k, just scaled down in terms of size of map and points you can play with. It is full fat 40k, complete turns, all the units available, you're just going to have smaller armies. And as I said, this allows you to use anything in 40k. In Kill Team, you can use like infantry models, no named characters, no armor. In this, you can use fully kitted out HQ units. If you want a walking battle tank, you can have it. Actual tanks, got it. Monsters that just aren't available in Kill Team, sure. All of these available in Combat Patrol because this is 40k. Combat Patrol gives you 3 CP to start with. CP is this resource you can use to activate special stratagems and special abilities. It's kind of like a resource management system within the confines of the game during the turns. And no matter how you build your army, you get 3 CP and you gain 1 per turn as you play. You get more and more CP the larger and larger scale games of 40k you play. At the moment it's all to do with how your army is composed and shit, but this is more fair. Everyone gets the same amount of CP. The next big difference that I mentioned is that this uses a smaller board. It's 44 by 30 inches as opposed to the conventional 60 by 40 that you'd normally shave 2 foot off of to play a smaller game of Warhammer. So you take one HQ, one command unit, like a captain, a named character, librarian, chaplain, warlock, hive tyrant, or a commander in a fucking mech suit if you want, because this is 40k and this shit is cool as fuck, so why wouldn't you want to do that? Then beyond the HQ unit, you need one troop choice, your basic unit choice. Now, most start collecting boxes will have a HQ, a troop, and something else in it, maybe a second troop, or an elite choice, or a heavy weapons choice, except for the Eldar Craft World box, because it's fucking garbage. Fuck you, Eldar Craft World box. If you like this, but you're like, Vince, I don't understand, what troops am I allowed to actually play? Well, there's a website called Warhampedia.ru, which has a comprehensive list of the units, including datasheets and rulings. I don't think this is like legit in terms that I assume Games Workshop don't like it existing. Why they haven't taken it down, I'm not sure. I would like to think it's some sort of altruistic or at least realistic view that making the game accessible will make them buy your little toy models and stuff, but it's probably because they're based out of the arse end of Russia and they can't sue them into oblivion. Beyond that, there's also a fantastic app called Battlescribe. Battlescribe allows you to compose lists. It's actually a hosting platform, that's why they can't get rid of it, and it allows you to install any rule set or data sheet. In this case, you just choose the 40k one when you load it in, and it allows you to compose a list. Now, of course, both of these things are all 8th edition rules at the moment, but it allows you to get an idea or feel, just read some of the stat blocks, special rules, and cool items that these characters get. Upon pre-release going live day, which I'm hoping is this Friday for Indomitus, there will be a new app released from the official people, the Games Workshop, from the people who make Warhammer 40,000, an army builder, which will allow you to build match play armies, hopefully using the point system. Now the problem is, there's a bad track record here because they've had a roster system, a roster maker on the main website before that used the fucking power level shit. And it also gave you no idea what any of your units did, just gave you names, not even pictures. You think they could at least give you pictures so you can figure out what the fuck things are. It's just not good, which is ironic or weird. I don't know if it's irony or just bizarre, but the Kill Team one's pretty good. The Kill Team one gives you a point total per one, no power level nonsense, and has customization buttons so you can do drop downs to pick different equipments and loadouts, which changes your points. It's actually a serviceable, useful tool, where the 40k version of that on the same website is a real stinking turd. So hopefully the mobile app is better than that. In the meantime, Warhampedia and Battlescribe are your friends if you want to just have a look at them and figure out what's going on and what models you want to buy from the mothership. You see, that's the funny thing about all this stuff, right? Games companies like Games Workshop won't want these things to exist because they infringe on intellectual property. Perhaps they can't allow them to exist for that reason, but in reality, they aren't taking money from you, right? Because of Battlescribe and because of Warhampedia, I bought 3 books and a shit ton of models. And I'm not the only one. Make your games accessible. It's the whole piracy thing, right? Piracy goes down when music and film and media is easy to get a hold of via services like Amazon or Netflix and stuff like that. You can get around the piracy by just making things accessible. On the top of accessibility, let's talk more about Combat Patrol. So once you got your HQ and your troop picked out, that's normally around half, if not less, of your points. And the true fun begins. Elites, heavy support, fast attack choices. This is like, you know, jet bikes and flying tanks and bipedal death machines and demon engines and all the cool shit that makes 40k so cool. I know it might feel overwhelming at first, but there was a Combat Patrol article they put out which actually has some sample lists, and the majority of them are built off of the Getting Started box sets. And I also want to just say, there is the rule of cool. If you're not going into 40k to like smash a tournament, which you're not if you're going to play Combat Patrol, building an army that you like the look of and the feel of and the aesthetics and the flavour is going to help you fall more in love with the game. And as you play some matches, you then might realise, oh, I need something to kill tanks, so I'll pick up some of these, I don't know, Hell Blasters or whatever. 40k doesn't have to be this optimized competitive thing, because it isn't for the most part. It seems to be very heavily driven by fluff, flavour and passion. So, barring the Eldar Craft World box, the Start Collecting boxes are perfect jump-offs for building a combat patrol unit. You can build a combat patrol out of a Start Collecting box and perhaps one other box of something, whether it be an extra heavy support tank or a set of soldiers, like a squad or something. Some of them don't even need that though. The Primaris Vanguard Start Collecting box is good value for getting you an army straight out of the tin. I'll come to more of that in a second. So let's talk about the main reasons I think that Combat Patrol, the 500 point game with a smaller map, is a perfect place to start playing, or just playing Warhammer in general. 40k is about to go into its biggest boom ever. Okay, GW are doing very, very well. The share prices are through the roof, and even during the pandemic, everything's been on the up, but people are happy to solo hobby, to glue and to paint. So wait until people can start hanging out and playing the game again when lockdown eases. I played 2 500 point games over the course of the last week, and although they're not as epic and grand in scale and scope as larger point totals, and those definitely have their merits too and their place, it was a great place to introduce myself to the game and to remind a friend who hadn't played for a little while of the rules as well, because essentially it gets rid of a lot of the noise. It makes it manageable and approachable and allows you to learn the rules and not be overwhelmed, because don't forget, you're playing with units that you've just got hold of, and then you double that for what your opponent's got. So then you're like, what does this unit do? What does this guy do? What is that? How does that work? Is there a ruling for that? And you start looking for books and things like that. Cutting it down to just 500 on either side makes it so much easier to get the grasp of the fundamentals. And then from there, with that friend or other friends, you can build up and learn things progressively. Slamming 2,000 point armies together as your first game of Warhammer is a bad idea. Peeling back on the sheer amount of noise, the sheer amount of things to understand, allows you to focus on the minutiae of the nonsense in front of you, as opposed to the size or scope of the nonsense in front of you, and that's a good way to start playing Warhammer. They're also a lot quicker, so this is good for a couple of reasons. One, you can get them in on a school night, so you're not upsetting the missus or actually getting up for work in time the next day. Two, if you are playing with a bit more time available, like a weekend for example, you won't be able to get 2 games in. If you've got multiple friends hanging out, if you're not in a place where you can't do that because of the virus, you can swap play partners and play in other places. Also, with smaller tables, you can fit into one of these rooms to play multiple games, but also if you're playing with one person and you're looking to play the campaign, you can actually get 2 500 point games in to kickstart your campaign or to edge your campaign along, as opposed to playing just one big match. This smaller games, therefore more games thing also helps when it comes to learning the game in terms of new units that you haven't played with before. You might have got a new toy. For example, I've just picked up a Contemptor Dreadnought and I cannot wait to smash it into people's faces. The problem is, with a 2 or 3 hour game of Warhammer and that thing maybe getting killed off the table in an early turn, or getting, in the case of the one game I played it in online, it just ran up the table for the whole game and I deployed it very badly. But the point is, you will get to try out these things and learn about these things and learn from your mistakes. For another example of this is that I deployed very badly in my first couple of games. The more games you get in, the more time and space you've got to learn from the mistakes that you're making in things like deployment or utilization of weapons, targeting, that sort of stuff. If you're sat there playing a 3 hour game, as I have done, but a 3rd hour mark, if you've made loads of mistakes and you don't feel like you can win that game, you're just sat there feeling fatigued and a little bit upset with yourself because you're kind of burning your own time there for mistakes you made 2 hours ago. Compacting down into smaller games allows you to learn fast. And then lastly, beyond the learning aspect, there is a lot to be said about the accessibility of a 500 point army from multiple perspectives. Firstly, there's the cost. It's much cheaper to buy just a get starting box and maybe one more box of units and some paints than it is to field a 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 point army, or as I've done, downsize some of your magic collection to really go ham on like a 6,000 point Blood Angels army. Okay, I had too much magic. I had to get rid of some of it. And no, I'm not selling out of Magic Complete. That'd be fucking stupid. I love Magic. Just Magic doesn't love me. Fuck you, Lewis. But beyond that as well, picking up like the Primaris Vanguard box, like I mentioned, it's just one box for £50, and it comes with one Primaris Lieutenant in a Phobos uniform, or armor should I say, 10 infiltrators. That's 2 squads of 5 or 1 squad of 10. You then get a 3-man Eliminator squad and a 3-man Suppressor squad. All of that is 463 points without any add-ons or upgrades. and that's for £51. That's an insanely good value for an army. And that's only 17 models to put together in glue and paint. That's a lot, don't get me wrong, that might almost feel overbearing as it is, but nowhere near what it would be for 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Having to build your first tank, for example, which a lot of people won't actually play in combat patrols because they're quite a large chunk of your points. Having 500 points to build in glue and paint is less of a hurdle, less of a literal brick wall that some of us might hit. If I hadn't had this nostalgia trip back into Warhammer and gone balls deep like I have, like my personality kind of makes me do, if I hadn't done that, perhaps combat patrol might have been the thing that made me dip my toe back in. And then lastly, beyond the painting and the gluing and the military aspect, just being able to play on a much smaller playing field means we can all play on our back room, dining room tables. I've actually picked up an unfolding board to play and perhaps film on in time that currently doesn't really fit very well into my own home because my home is tiny. It's hilarious that I bought this table and then we've had announcements that table sizes are kind of going down. Not officially for every version of Warhammer. The 6x4 will probably still have its place in Warhammer's community, but I just find that very funny. So all of this makes Warhammer more accessible, but I want to hear if you are finding it more accessible. Is combat patrol something that you are looking to do? Are you still preferring the idea of dipping into kill team? Which of those two things would you like to hear me talk about in a couple of weeks' time once I've got a chance to play both of them? I want to hear what you have to say. Has this been enough for you to dig out that shoebox, take out the cum socks, the socks that are full of cum from masturbating with them, throw those away, and then pick out the Chaos Space Marines from underneath and be like, you know what? You boys are getting painted. And we're going patrolling. I've been Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet. My hair is fucking awful. I can't wait for this haircut. And I'll see you all soon. I'll be back later in the week with some Commander, some M21 gameplay, the new set being played in Modern or Legacy, and we'll also have probably some Cube coming up too on the channel. In the meantime, be good to one another, and I'll see you all soon. Ta-ta for now.